If you or anybody that you know would like to support the platform, you can do that by way of going to the links underneath the video in the description below and clicking any one of the three to support this channel. And thank you.
You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
A man went on a rampage in Tennessee that left six erased, including his estranged wife, adult daughter, and three children, before he later took himself out in an incendiary end to his domestic violence troubles. Gary Barnett, age 48, erased his estranged wife, Regina Barnett, adult daughter, Brittany Perez, and the unidentified children on Thursday night. They were found deceased Thursday night at a home near Chattanooga where police responded to an incident and found the residence ablaze. It was unclear whether the children were harmed or erased in the fire. Marion County Sheriff Bo Barnetti stated that the murder-suicide stemmed from a domestic situation and was among the most gruesome scenes he's ever seen in his career. Quote, "This is one of the worst things I've ever seen. You hear about these things, but this is one of the worst I've been involved in all of my career as a law enforcement officer." Once firefighters extinguished the flames, authorities found the remains of three adults and three children inside of the home. Another unidentified adult who suffered a wound in the incident survived and was hospitalized. The remains of the six people who were erased in the incident were taken to Nashville for autopsies. The neighbor stated that the couple fought, and Bernetti stated that officers had been to the location for domestic calls in the past. Quote, "They were always going tit for tat back and forth. The couple had been in the middle of a divorce. Regina Barnett had warned a court that her estranged husband would erase her. She got a no contact order against him after his December arrest on a domestic assault charge. In an affidavit of complaint, she wrote, quote, "My soon to be ex husband threatened to erase me and he verbally abuses me every day. He also threatened to erase my dog. He also has anywhere from 50 to 60 guns in his room. I am afraid he will get drunk and erase me." My condolences to the friends and the family and the neighbors, who have to deal with the circumstances. At no point in time did the children ever deserve to go through such an event. Um, such as that. Like I said, it's always a sad time whenever it is that children are harmed um, in things such as this when there is no need for any of that to ever take place. The interesting thing about this is the fact that not only did the wife give a valid reason as to be afraid, she brought that directly to the court. The police also knew. So the main people that are supposed to protect the women out here knew what it was that was going on and still didn't do anything. Knowing the fact that he has a slew of weapons for an army, they still didn't do anything. Now, again, some people may list, well, they did give a no contact order. That's great that they gave that, but that doesn't mean that that's going to stop him from doing what it is that he inevitably ended up doing. Because he had the mentality of like, oh, you're trying to leave me. You're trying to be with somebody else. You think you're about to be free. You think you're about to take the kids. You think you're about to break this up. You not going nowhere. If you leave, we all leave. And that's exactly what he did. He made sure that there was nobody left behind, or at least as much as he could get to that point, because one person did survive, right? That person is still alive, and they have to live with the fact of what it is that either what they knew, what they saw, what it is that they had to go through during that whole event. Knowing the fact that several people are gone and they are the only ones that survived to tell the tale. That must be horrifying. Not sure how that person is going to end up, sleeping directly at night, having to go through such an event like that, but they're going to more than likely need a lot of therapy. Again, this comes in where I've always consistently told women on this platform, like, hey, if you're going through a situation, if you're going through an instance, don't wait on the court or the police to try to protect you. You need to just leave. I'm talking about get your stuff and go. And I've stated before, if you as a woman want to be selfish with your life and you don't really care about it, by all means, do whatever it is that you want to do. But you don't have that luxury when you have kids. When kids are involved, no, you don't have that luxury to sit there and wait to see what happens because you saw what happened. We all were able to hear what happened. None of them made it. None of them. She could have possibly opted if she knew or had an inkling that anything like this was going to take place because, again, she's gotten warnings before. He's threatened her a multitude of times. They've gone tit for tat. She could have been like, you know what? You're going to stay with some family somewhere in Salt Lake City, somewhere in Vegas, somewhere in Canada, somewhere in Washington, like we're somewhere far, 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 far away. So if anything were like this were to happen, it would only be two people, if not three, that were technically involved. The kids will be safe and sound. Of course, it's going to be a very sad event. It's going to be a lot of mourning. It's going to be a lot of therapy, but they would be able to live instead of where they are now. So, again, to a lot of the women out there, hopefully you will heed the lesson of this story. You will pay attention to this story. If you know any girlfriends or anything, or somebody like that, where they're in a situation like this, you need to help them. You need to act. Now, I'm not sitting up here stating that, hey, you should try to force and all this. No, I'm just, you should throw a little flag or something out there, letting people know, like, hey, I see you. I understand. I know what you're going through. If you need some type of help, we can book it. We can move. We can make sure, that you are fine, that you are safe, right? Because a lot of times in situations like this happen, people refuse to act out of fear. And whenever that ends up taking over, which is fear, then that means that there's going to be a loss of life or a great loss of life that is going to transpire. And then that means that the person who could have acted that didn't, now you have to live with the fact that you didn't move when you should have in order to potentially save a life or a multitude of lives. You have to live with that forever. You got to live with that regret. You got to live with those conversations. You got to live with going through to that funeral. You got to live with, going directly to that headstone and talking because you could have possibly potentially did something. Far too often, a lot of people say that we need to look at each other like human beings and that we need to realistically care. But again, we don't really care or treat other people as human beings unless something severe is happening to us. Unless it's to the point that we can understand, that we can empathize and sympathize with a person, we don't really care. It's just like homelessness. Nobody really cares about homelessness up until they're homeless. And at that point, it's too late to actually act to stop something from taking place, to stop somebody else from being homeless. You're already homeless. You can't stop nobody else from being homeless. But when you had the option that you could have acted, you decided not to because it wasn't at your doorstep. And it's the exact same thing here. A lot of us will choose not to act. We know women in our family. We know friends and everything else that may have or are going through these situations at this moment in time right now. I'm not going to go over the statistics because I've done that in a multitude of other videos, and that's pretty much fallen on deaf ears. So I'm not going to rehash old information that people, if they want to, can go look up. And, you know, we could act, but we decide not to because we'll be like, well, it's not my business. I'm not this, I'm not that. But again, if it was hitting your doorstep, then you would want to act. If it was your daughter, you would act. If it was your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, your sister, you would act. If it was a close friend, you would act, right? when it's at the doorstep, people want to act. When it's not there and they still know about it, people don't want to act. People would rather act again when it's too late and far too late. But the only thing I can say is, hopefully the women out there that are listening, y'all go get your license to carry. You go learn some self defense. You learn how to protect yourself so that if things like this do take place, you are pretty much reassured that you are able to at least handle yourself the best way that you can. That's the only way that things like this will stop happening to women, is the moment in time that women get over the fear and they actually start heeding the words of men out here and they start going to get their license to carry. They start going to get some training, because then men will start thinking twice before they start doing things like this. But that'll only ever change the moment in time that women ever decide to change.